Counselor.
We've got a problem.
You are the world you have created. And when you cease to exist, this world that you have created will also cease to exist.
Boom! What's up, you guys? Wanted to come to you real quick about a cool little movie I saw a while back, man. It wasn't, it's an older movie. It's an older movie called The Counselor. Great cast. Michael Fassbender, Javier Bardem, Penelope Cruz, Brad Pitt, Cameron Diaz. Good movie, entertaining movie. There's a scene in this movie that I have legitimately for years I have been amazed with because it has to do with some philosophies, some life philosophies that I genuinely believe are really kind of internal economies that I wish more people would practice, as you'll hear once my man gets into his lesson to the main character. The main character makes some crucial mistakes during the movie, and this kind of wise older Mexican gentleman is locking him on. So I just want to break it down a little bit and just enjoy this moment of movie magic with you, because to me it is one of the most amazing pieces that I've seen out of Hollywood. It's still to this day, the movie's old. The movie came out before like 2016. The movie came out in 2013. It's still a good movie, I think. There's some craziness, there's some weirdness in there, but don't think of me when you see that. But I just want to get into this real quick, let you listen to this philosophy, and I'll kind of break it up and see how I digest it. And Bruce Lee, absorb what's useful, disregard what's useless, and add what is essentially your own. But this is a fun new piece of content. Boom.
Actions create consequences which produce new worlds, and they're all different.
So the main character calls this Mexican wise man, cartel individual, for advice, and he's asking him what to do, and he's like, what do I do? This has happened. I don't know what to do. And he starts this whole talk off by explaining to him that, like, hey man, the reality of life is actions create consequences, and they're all different. He's trying to let him know that something horrible has happened. He's also trying to help him see the responsibility he has for what's happened. Because the reality of this game called life is that no one bears the responsibility for the results of our life outside of us. And the reality of that is we bear that responsibility by having the lordship and the power over our lives of choice. And so anytime you hear someone blaming someone else, for his or her results, his or her situation, you know that this individual is not enlightened. This individual is not aware of the beauty and the great reality that your actions have consequences. And as your actions have consequences, that's both scary but also beautiful, because it does, yes, mean that you have to bear quite a heavy responsibility, but it also means that you also have the power, because you can't change what you can't take responsibility for. So that's kind of the whole beauty of life, you being the common denominator of every situation that you're going to face in your life. That yes, life may take a turn, yes, you may be dealt bad cards, but the reality of this game is what ends up happening as a result of you being that common denominator, your choices over time. You might zigzag, but you're either going to move in this direction or you're going to move in this direction through the power you have called the mean of choice. It's beautiful.
And all these worlds, heretofore unknown to us, they must have always been there, must they not?
So he's explaining, like, all these worlds, all these places you can end up in as a result of your choices. Maybe they've always existed. Maybe there are all these like parallel universes of possibility of like where Byron could end up, where Byron could land, where Byron could end up being based on these decisions I may or may not make. And it's like when you make these decisions, you end up in these places and they're so real, it's like they were waiting for you. And he's like, is it not like this? You know, and the guy's still like...
You have to acknowledge the reality of the world that you're in. There is not some other world.
So now he's telling him he's got to be grounded in reality. You have to acknowledge the gravity and the weight. And this is how, you know, you become powerful in your life, is by acknowledging the gravity and the weight of the world that you're in at all times. This is why I talk very much and I study Stoicism and things like that, but not even really. I don't really study Stoicism. I find out as I start to look into it that there are a lot of similarities between my paradigm and Stoicism and a number of different cultures and religions. But to me, one of the most motivating and powerful things that you can even ever think about is you're gonna die. You know, you're gonna die. Like, we're gonna die. Bro, what are you doing sleeping in? We're gonna die. Like, why am I playing cell phone games on my phone? You know, like, why am I acting like I'm already successful? I'm taking all this time doing these things. The reality is, bro, I'm gonna die, you know? So I think about death every day. I feel like it helps me remain very present, very grounded. And I don't want to be laying there like when I was in Iraq and I got blown up and I, you know, may or may not have died or thought I was dead. I was just sitting there and I was just like, this is so tragic. I'm 18, I'm 19, and my life is over. I haven't even had a chance to really get after it yet. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so final. And I felt so sad that I hadn't been purposeful. And now this is why I try to live so purposeful and try to drive so hard and have all this energy, because it's like, I don't want to feel that regret. I felt the deepest regret I've ever felt in my entire life. I don't want to feel that again. So, I mean, he's grounding him in the moment. He's like, you need to accept this.
Will you help me? I would urge you to see the truth of the situation you're in, counselor. That is my advice.
So a lot of people, when they mess up or they're in a bad spot, all they want to focus on is getting out of pain. This desire to get out of pain is natural. It's human nature. Your psychology and your being is really designed to get away from pain and experience pleasure, generally, unless you unlock the potential that comes from the realization of what pain can represent in your life. Meaning that if you can find the purpose in the pain, you can unlock the potential in that process. So with weightlifting, I know I'm going to put myself through a whole bunch of pain every morning, but I unlock the potential in the process because understanding the purpose of that pain, I can continue to step into it. I can continue to do it. I can continue to be the man. You know, I can continue to become the man because I understand the purpose of that pain. I unlock the potential of the process. So there's a natural human reaction to want to run away from the situation he's created through his bad experiences, his bad decisions, and all he wants is help. So, you know, the wise man, who's actually the counselor in this situation, is trying to help this experience help him become more enlightened. And naturally, just as with everyone, the guy is just like, can you just make the pain go away? He's missing everything.
It is not for me to tell you what you should have done or not done. The world in which you seek to undo the mistakes that you made is different from the world where the mistakes were made.
This just simply means right now you're experiencing the sting of past decisions you've made. And as a result, and essentially as the reality of your own unconsciousness, you're seeking to change the reality you've created because you don't like it by trying to go, you can't go back into the past and change this. And I believe that when people become real with that reality and they really look at their situation and they really accept the fact that they're there because they've chosen to be there, whether they were consciously choosing to be there or they accidentally chose to be there, and they realize that they can choose to be somewhere else tomorrow, and the sooner they start, the sooner they finish. And that, I believe that's when you really start cooking with tartar sauce.
You are now at the crossing, and you want to choose, but there is no choosing there. It's only accepting. The choosing was done a long time ago.
And this is kind of the reality that, like, this is why I work so hard on a daily basis. This is the reality that you're going to be living tomorrow the results of what it is you're able to do today. You're going to be living the results of what you're able to do today. There's no way around it. There's no way over it. There's no way under it. The only way to get to it is to go through it. The results you have, you are a creator who is you are created by a creator. You create reality. There's nothing you can do to avoid that. You can choose to sit on the couch. You will have chosen to create a reality that's in alignment with your decisions.
I don't mean to offend you, but reflective men often find themselves at a place removed from the realities of life. In any case, we should all prepare a place where we can accommodate all the tragedies that sooner or later will come to our lives. But this is an economy few people care to practice.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. He's like, reflective men. And this is 90% of the population sitting here looking at their situation, not happy with it, looking behind them, wanting to be like, you know, if only I woulda, coulda, shoulda, someday I wanna. You know, you're reflective. You're looking at your rear view mirror. And he says that because you're essentially unconsciously making these decisions reflectively, you will be consistently unhappy with, or in this situation, in a specific situation, you're removed from your current reality because you're so unhappy with it. It's so out of alignment with what your ideal was and what you wanted to be, what you wanted to have happen, that you're almost crushed. And he talks about how this is something that a lot of people experience in life because so many people are reactive to life instead of proactive in life. I talk about deliberate reality creation. I talk about perceptual empowerment. I talk about the alchemy of the mind, and people just want to watch Lost, you know what I mean? and the Kardashians, you know what I'm saying? So if you're not driving through life, you're drifting through life. And if you're drifting through life, meaning you're moving through life with no deliberation, you will find yourself at these crossroads from time to time, which hopefully are painful enough and traumatic enough to wake you up and cause you to become and live with more deliberation and all these different things. But the reality is that takes courage. And that takes faith, and that takes understanding and belief in self. And you can't fake these things, okay? You can't pretend to have these things not on this level. So these things, confidence comes from experience. So let me just hit that last little bit again.
We should all prepare a place where we can accommodate all the tragedies that sooner or later will come to our lives. But this is an economy few people care to practice.
We should all prepare a place to help us accommodate the tragedies that sooner or later come to our lives. But this is an economy that's few men choose to work on or choose to strengthen. And the reality of the game is that is exactly what I'm talking about. It's something I try to drive home all the time. You know, I'm training for the worst moment. I'm training my mind. I'm training my spirit. I'm training my body. I think of death every day to accept it, to become intimate with it, so that when it comes for me, it's like, hello, darkness, my old friend. I've been living for this moment. And it unlocks my ability to live as aware and as aggressive and as intensely, and to know when to give my life up and to be able to give my life up, because I've gone ham, man. I've been going as hard as I can in every moment. This is what we talk about, the reality, being so enmeshed into reality. Everyone you know is going to die. Have you dealt with that on a deep level? Everything is going to change. All of my strength is going to lose me. I think about anything I fear, I ruminate on it, I chew on it, and I think about it for years before it happens, so I can deal with it with strength and grace and dignity and honor. You know, nothing lasts forever. So this is, I believe, the economy he talks about, that real serious thinkers and real serious deep men and women and individuals who are really enmeshed in the love of reality and the study of reality, because this reality is crazy. That's a whole nother piece of content for me to talk to you about how amazing and beautiful reality is, and how much of a legitimate textbook and stratospheric, awe-inspiring miracle this is, that we're sitting here doing all of this and talking, and I'm here with 5 fingers and on each hand and all that. But he talks about the economy that few men choose to strengthen in terms of the internal economy with regards to dealing with the chaos of life, the dark side of life, the other side, the night side, which is present in everything, because we're sitting here, we're playing with ones and zeros. What would light be without dark? What would day be without night? What would life be without death? What would happiness be without sadness? What would good be without bad? The essential question is would good still be good? I don't presume to know the answer. This is just the presentation of some deep thoughts, and you can Bruce Lee whatever you want, absorb what's useless, absorb what's useful, disregard what's useless, and add what is essentially your own. But I'm not trying to get you to think like me. I just want to get you to think, man. It's a good time. Get back into it.
And that is because when it comes to grief, the normal rules of exchange do not apply, because grief transcends value. A man would give entire nations to lift grief off his heart, and yet you cannot buy anything with grief, because grief is worthless.
This is very simple. It's like we all know this one. On a deep level, grief is worthless. There are certain emotions, grief being one of them, I believe, that are just priceless. You can't pay for it. You can't buy it. You know me, I'm in the executive protection industry. I've been working with billionaires for over a decade, doing amazing things all around the world. Like, every vacation, I've been everywhere and doing things. I'm just here to tell you, you can't buy happiness either. Happiness is also priceless. You can buy things that make you happy, but I'm talking about genuine, I should rephrase that. You can't, fulfillment is invaluable. You can buy happiness. You really can. You can buy things that will make you happy momentarily, and you got enough money, you keep doing that. But ultimately, fulfillment and satisfaction, these things come from a healthy mind. And you'll find that so much of life is not so much about managing your situation. So much of life, and whether you can be happy or sad or whatever it is during your life, is going to come down to your ability to manage your mind, not your situation. That was Will Smith. We'll put a little Tony Robbins on it. The quality of your life has everything to do with the quality of your conversations. Happiness cannot be pursued. It must ensue. It must come from right action. Rub a little Viktor Frankl on it real quick, right? But I'm just saying, with what he is saying, the main character is experiencing an extremely intense spike in volume of grief as a result of some just horrible things that have happened in this movie. And he's helping him try to deal with it, but he's also explaining to him that you're in a situation where you now must deal with grief, and grief is worthless. And that's what's so tragic about it. There's nothing, you almost just have to let time, that will kill us all, that does kill everything, and does also bring in the renewal of everything, because there's duality in everything, do its job to grief.
Why are you telling me this?
And he still doesn't get it. And this is kind of the mark. Obviously he's dealing with some heavy things that he doesn't want to accept, but this is something I see when it comes to these minds that are on a very deep level too weak to accept a hard or harsh or strong reality, a strong dose of reality. His mind and his being is still on so many levels trying to reject what it is that the counselor is really trying to tell him. He's trying his heart doesn't want it to be true so bad that his mind's not strong enough to get him and his being and his heart to swallow it. It's so beautiful. But it's also not a sign of strength.
Because you continue to deny the reality of the world you're in.
You said I was that man at that crossing.
Yes, at the understanding that life is not going to take you back. You are the world you have created. And when you cease to exist, this world that you have created will also cease to exist.
So it's beautiful. The main character's like, hey, you said I was that man at the crossing. Basically asking him to say it more intensely and a little bit more like, but you said I was at a crossing, meaning that I have a choice. And essentially the counselor's like, yes, but you're at this crossing as a result of decisions you've already made. Now, what's in this movie is so powerful is how tragic the results of the decisions he's already made are. But how I want to make it relevant is that the reality of this game is that me and you every single day are at a crossing just like this, where we're dealing with the reality of decisions we've already made. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes they're stratospherically terrible, and that's why you have this traumatic situation like this guy's having. But other times they're just continuing, you know, and it's very dangerous because it's very seductive. And the other times they're just continuing, and it's just enough to keep you living life at a 4 when you should be living life at an 8 or a 9 or even a 10. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's really dangerous. Is I just want you guys to realize that every single day you're at this crossing that he's at right now. It's just maybe you've been making higher quality decisions that haven't led to a spike in trauma like he's experiencing, like the main character's experiencing. But every day you're at the crossroads, the crosshairs of where your decisions have placed you in the world and in the trajectory of your life, and hopefully over the trajectory of your development, you know, and not that you're moving in the other direction.
But for those with the understanding that they're living the last days of the world, death acquires a different meaning. The extinction of all reality is a concept no resignation can encompass. And yet, in that despair, which is transcendent, you will find the ancient understanding that the philosopher's stone will always be found despised and buried in the mud. This may seem a small thing in the face of annihilation until annihilation occurs. And then all the grand designs and all the grand plans will be finally exposed and revealed for what they are.
The extinction of all reality, meaning the extinction of your reality, which is the extinction of all the realities that you've created as a result of the decisions you've made and the people you've created. The extinction of all realities, the extinction of all the different universes that you've created and lived in as a result of all your. Because remember, at the beginning of this talk, we were talking about how there's all these different possible realities that you're moving through life with, and your decisions can make you go to all these different realities. But the extinction of all the reality is something that is so final that essentially it's almost unfathomable, but it's so final. You know what I'm saying? And what the main character is struggling with is the reality that he thinks he can go back, but the reality of life is every minute that goes by, you're experiencing on many levels the extinction of all realities. You can't go back to any of those minutes that have passed, those minutes that have died, those minutes have died. The minutes that we have passed, they have all gone and they've died, and I can't go back and make decisions. And he's still trying to get him to see that, bro, the damage you've done has already been done. And no amount of resignation and indignation and emotional negativity and upsetness and stand up and fightedness can give you back what you've already chosen to give up and lose.
And yet, in that despair, which is transcendent, you will find the ancient understanding that the philosopher's stone will always be found despised and buried in the mud.
Now he talks about how the philosopher's stone will always be found despised and buried in the mud, which I think is so beautiful, because so often it's like casting pearls before swine, trying to help them understand these deeper things and these more important things, because what happens with it is people just want to get pleasure and get away from pain. They do not care until trauma is knocking at their door, and until they're sitting there and they're like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, oh my Father, God, help me. You know, and then there's this little tiny portal that opens up where maybe they can learn something. And maybe they can evolve through trauma and through pain, you know. But he talks about how, you know, because of the emotional waves and the emotional intensity and just the way life is, you're stumbling upon the reality that the philosopher's stone, the mechanism for wisdom and truth in our world, will always be found buried in the mud, because it doesn't suit people's. No matter how upset you are, no matter what you're feeling, it can't make the situation go away. It can't fix the situation. No one wants to listen to me right now. No one wants to understand you don't want to understand what I'm telling you right now. But I'm giving you the wisdom to deal with this. I'm giving you the wisdom to deal with life, is what he's saying. The philosopher's stone isn't something that's entertaining and fun and lovey-dovey and PC and feel goody bear. Yeah, I'm saying it's something that is like harsh. It's the chaos and reality. It's the reality of chaos and order. You know, it's the little squirrel that you're feeding one day that's really cute and is your little friend, and then like a hawk comes up and just boom, grabs it and like tears it apart and eats it and flies off, and you're like, you know, so the reality, you know, the philosopher's stone with regards to the reality of life, that's not so beautiful like everyone wants to believe it is, will always be found in the mud, because truth is not popular, because truth requires a conduit and a host that's strong enough to be able to understand it, to be able to digest it, to be able to own it, and to be able to implement it. And that's not everybody. That's not most people.
This may seem a small thing in the face of annihilation, until annihilation occurs.
This may seem, he's saying, what I'm trying to tell you may seem a small thing in the face of annihilation. This may seem a small thing in the face of the pain and the horrific internal world you're experiencing as a result of what happens. But when annihilation occurs, everything I'm saying will make sense. When, you know, that atrocities happen, everything I'm saying to you will make perfect sense.
And then, all the grand designs and all the grand plans will be finally exposed and revealed for what they are.
And then, all of the grand designs and plans will be finally exposed for what they are. Nothing. And then we all die. You know, and then we all go away. You know. And then it just is what it is. And all it is like Alexander the Great said, what we were able to accomplish. Maybe. But who knows? I hope you guys enjoyed that. Boom!